Hey everybody, Norm here. So you've begun automating. You're working with modular instruments, and one of the things that happens in the process of creating automation is undoubtedly you're going to need to actually monitor what's happening with your instruments or go into a process of debugging while maybe automation is going, or you're going to kind of pause your automation and start to maybe mess with the values to figure out why you're not getting the results. Maybe it's your device under test. Maybe it's that you configured your instrument wrong. But in all of these circumstances, the knowledge that you might be familiar with, kind of going from a box like this, where you can kind of see what's happening, you're getting some kind of readout, you've got some knobs and buttons, you hit the local button and you start messing around with things. You don't really have that with modular instruments, or at least not obviously. In this session, we're going to go through how to reestablish that workflow using our free software, InstrumentStudio, and modular instruments with NI gear. Let's go. Okay, so very simply put, I've got a very simplistic sequence where I'm sweeping across some frequencies and some amplitudes for my RF generator, telling my analyzer I'm at the other frequency, and I'm going to be looking at my signal in time and frequency. Nothing all that grand, but it is a piece of automation that my instrument, once again, it could be PXI or anything, but in this case, we're all working in modular instruments, and so we're going to see what happens. So as I run this, one of the things that you'll note is that I indeed see my spectrum updating, and I'm basically seeing noise, and I'm looking at my time domain, and I'm not seeing anything. So something inherently is going wrong. So let's try to figure out, once again, during this automation process, what should I do? So let's go ahead and run this again. And one of the things that we'll do is, I'm not seeing any good values for any of it. So I'm just going to kind of pause my automation where it's at. So it's basically in the middle of trying to run that analyze path. What do you do? So with NI, one of the things that you should open up is InstrumentStudio. And when you open up InstrumentStudio, what it's going to do is give you the option, as you may have seen in a previous video, where you can try to load everything in your chassis into a single panel. You can select individual things to load into a tab within the interface. And then another thing that you can do is go ahead and connect to basically create a layout based on all things that are basically active in your system. And so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to start basically a debug session, which is going to add a little bit of smarts. So if you've got a lot of things in your system and you're only using a handful of them, this is going to connect and create a panel with all those things that are currently initialized. Now, in my case here, as you can kind of see, we've got, DC power, we've got RF generation and analysis, and that's really the most of what we're going to be looking at for this. But one of the things that you can see here is that as I click on control, you can see some of the values updating for the DC system. I'm going to go ahead and control for the RF parts of everything, and then I'm going to go ahead and even run. So now I can see live what values based on the current configuration. Once again, automation has been paused, and this is attaching to the already existing and running sessions. Very useful when something isn't looking right. Now, very quickly, I can see here, if I look at my analysis, a couple different things, that looks right, my center frequency and my reference level, basically the magnitude input, and then also tuned frequency. But if I look over on my signal generator down here, I can see that, I'm way off in terms of what frequency I'm generating, and also I'm not even at a good level. So let's go ahead and just sanity check that if I go ahead and put, say, 10 gigahertz in there, and then I raise my level up to, say, something like -40, now I'm seeing something. Hey, let's even add a little bit of an offset to one of them. Great, now I'm starting to see a little bit more information happening with it. So my device under test is okay, and basically most of everything configured is okay, but clearly my RF frequency and the power level were off. So that gives me an indication of what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I'm going to go back into my piece of automation. I'm going to go ahead and actually I'll terminate this one out. And now what I'll do is I'll go to where I'm setting the power level, and for my generator, of course, set RF frequency. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the configuration, and lo and behold, you can see down here, I'm leaving the default values set for that. So let's go ahead and turn that off. I've now assigned them to the locals. Let's go ahead and zoom back out here and save the sequence and run again. And now you can see in the panel that's going, we indeed have this tone sweeping across the screen, changing that level, and we're going through the full automation of the system. All right. So hopefully that gave you basically the illustration of how to get started when something goes wrong as you're either trying to create your automation, or maybe you've modified it, or maybe something else is up in the system. Now, one of the other things that we want to do is, while this is running, I'm going to go ahead and slow it down. Basically, we're going to add some more points into our test sequence. How do you actually monitor what's happening while it's already running? Well, luckily, it's basically the same process. So within the code here, we're going to go into sweep loop. I'm going to go ahead and modify the values of the sweep loop itself. I'm going to go ahead and edit the sweep parameters. For my frequency, instead of being 11 points, I'm going to make it 101 points. So I've modified that value down there. It's again just a nice feature of test stand. Now I'm going to go ahead and run my sequence again. Let's go ahead and save that. All right, so now it's going through and running. I'm going to go ahead and open up InstrumentStudio again and basically follow the exact same process. All right, so now that it's launched, we're going to do that same process of clicking on debug, but what you'll notice is since automation is already running, the values that are happening are going to be updating on the screen live. Now you might be able to tell if I kind of zoom in down here on this lower portion, you can see that again 9.73. These are the levels that our automation program, in this case test stand calling into LabVIEW, and you can see that basically we're leaving our center frequency and reference level fixed for our analysis. And maybe that makes sense for what we're doing. In this case, that's just fine. So this is the way, basically using that exact same tactic, you can see live the values if you don't have a display like what we've got, where you can see actually what's happening on the instrumentation itself. So hopefully that gives you the ability to go ahead and once again look at and reestablish that other workflow where, hey, I just want to screen up. If you've got multiple monitors, and here I've got 3 different monitors set up in my display, you can't see them all, but all of those are giving me different insights as to what's happening in my system, giving me comfort that things are running appropriately. I've got a spectrum, I've got a frequency that makes sense. All right, so once again, we've got PXI instrumentation. It's got a lot of power for automation. It can do a lot of different things. And one of the things that it can do is still give you that workflow that you're used to. When you're creating automation or debugging it, you want to be able to go ahead and see what your current settings are. You want to be able to kind of pause automation, take control of that where they are with a little bit of modification. Also, if you just want to leave your display open so that you can see what's happening on each of your instruments, that is also possible as well. All within InstrumentStudio with NI software. Hopefully I'll see you in the next videos, and thank you very much. See you then.